Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Very special day. Big guest today. Penn State coach James Franklin joins the show. And Ari, it's a wide-ranging conversation, and I was very intrigued by a few of the things that James Franklin said.
Yeah, it's interesting because James Franklin catches a lot of strays, sometimes even from me. James Franklin is one of the longest tenured coaches in college football, and he just led Penn State to doing something that I didn't realize hadn't been done since they joined the Big Ten, which is an interesting framing discussion. I know you have a column up on 3 right now about, the alignment and all the things that we are discussing, but it's like, where do you actually place James Franklin in the pantheon of college football coaches? Because I had him very underranked and it made people mad. And I think that you had him higher. And I feel like he's a very, I don't know, like if controversial, he's a very divisive figure in the sport. And I'm actually have no pulse for and would love to know, like, where are Penn State fans with him? Because I know when he got his extension, they were not 100% on board with that. Are more people, have they come around? Or are people still iffy on him in State College specifically?
I get the sense that it's a split. And my thing on James Franklin is he does the thing that most coaches cannot do. And that's win every game he's supposed to win.
Yeah.
But he has struggled to win the games that he's not supposed to win. He's got to fix that. And we've had that discussion with other coaches. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, that was the albatross around his neck for a long time. And then it finally broke. And
the thing that I think we could have a 2-minute conversation about this before the interview, that has always been interesting about Penn State is that we are uncertain, or there's a disagreement, not just between you and me, but I think with everybody, of like what Penn State is supposed to be. And for the majority of Penn State's existence, they were in the same side of the conference in the same division as Ohio State and Michigan. And Michigan State,
not the majority of Penn State's existence, for the majority of the time,
majority of the Big Ten. That's what I mean. Sorry. But even in the modern era, like they were in the Big Ten East for what, a decade plus? And they were being directly judged by their results against programs that have higher ceilings. So that is the thing that makes it a very.
If I'm a Penn State fan, that pisses me off to hear you say that, because there's no reason there's no logical reason Ohio State or Michigan should have a higher ceiling than Penn State. It's in a state that has players,
and I'm happy that
it's the same size school as them. It has a very good football history, just like them. Like, that's why that pisses them off. And that's what makes something that James Franklin, you'll hear him say in this interview, very intriguing, because I think we've seen it with Michigan in the past 5 years where something changed. And he says something has changed at Penn State. We'll have to see if that's true. But some of the things that have happened suggest he's right. So let's get to the interview. Before we talk to James Franklin, I got to tell you about what Ari and I are doing this weekend. We're headed to San Antonio. Whataburger bringing us to San Antonio. That's right. We're going to be broadcasting live on Saturday in San Antonio before the big basketball games. And I believe we'll have the Whataburger food truck. So come join us, eat with us. And oh, by the way, if you're visiting a Whataburger anytime soon, and I suggest you do right now, because guess what is back? The mushroom Swiss burger. And honestly, it deserves a welcome party. 2 juicy all-beef patties, melty cheese, and 2 layers of perfectly grilled mushrooms bring the rich, hearty goodness. And let's not forget the creamy au jus sauce, tying it all together like a perfect bite-sized symphony. But here's the catch. It is only for a limited time. So don't be the person wishing they got it after it's gone. Grab yours today. And oh, by the way, April 4th through the 7th, double points when you order Whataburger. Double loyalty points. Get mushroom Swiss burgers. Get double points. Get a Whataburger party pack with 10 burgers. You can add the grilled jalapenos. You can add the avocado. You name it. How do you want it to be? You decide. Get a Whata Wings party pack. April 4th through 7th, double points. Bring home the W with Whataburger. All right. James Franklin has brought home a lot of W's in his career. Maybe not all of the W's that his fan base would prefer. Let's talk about that with James. We are joined now by Penn State head coach James Franklin. And I've told him, because my favorite thing that he does in his press conferences is occasionally we'll just break in with questions for the people asking him the questions. So he's free to, anytime you have a question, James, you just pop in. I'll ask the football stuff. But, you know, if we're going the wrong direction, you set us right.
Gotcha. On it.
I guess I got to start because you went through 3 rounds of the playoff last year, and you had some crazy stuff happen where your backup quarterback goes in the portal. You don't have him. What did you learn from that experience of all of the things that happened to you in December, January?
Yeah, so I guess a couple things. First thing is, longest season in Penn State history, right? 16 games, won 13 games. You're dealing with the transfer portal, or the transfer portal is about to open and guys have got to make decisions. You're dealing with that at the end of the season while you're still trying to compete. You're basically trying to put contracts together at the same time that you're trying to keep everybody focused on the task at hand. So very, very challenging. And I think there's some things with that everybody would agree that we're going to have to look at from a college football scheduling or calendar perspective that just don't make sense, right? Everybody should be competing for a national championship. And then when the season's over, then decisions have to be made and rightfully so. So those things I think were very, very challenging, but I was very pleased with how our staff handled it. Bo Pribula was our backup quarterback, and Bo's dream school was to come to Penn State. Grew up in the state of Pennsylvania, was a Trace McSorley fan. This was his dream, and Bo did not want to leave. But as a quarterback, there's only so many spots, and schools that he was interested in were filling up. And he had to choose, am I going to go in the transfer portal and stay? And the problem is, it's not like we had a hard and fast rule where, he couldn't, look around. The problem is he wanted to go on visits. And I don't know how you can go on visits and then, be our backup quarterback in this type of game. So we tried to kind of work it out. I even talked about calling schools for him. But we just, he was put in a really difficult position, and so were we based on the calendar. And I just don't feel like any kid should be put in that position.
James, I felt for Bo and I felt for you during that time. And, looking back too, he wasn't just a backup quarterback. He made a lot of important plays for you throughout the year. And you find yourself in a 1-possession game with a trip to the national championship game on the line. Like, theoretically speaking, he could have come in and done something in one play in that game and swung the whole thing. And I know that you're a big thinker and you like to propose these things, but obviously that's one major issue in a laundry list of issues with the calendar. Have you come up with a calendar in your head of how you would like it to go, or how coaches in your position would like it to be?
Yeah, I think, I'm also on the board of the AFCA and have been for a while. And I think your point is a good one. It's funny because I think Bo got some criticism. I know we got some criticism because people say, well, just let him play. There's other schools that have done it, but I don't know how you have him play when he's, missing days of practices to go on visits to other schools and things like that. And he felt like he had to make an educated decision. So it's hard to do it without seeing the places. I think the conversations that I've heard in the Big Ten, the conversations I've been a part of at the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association, is I think everybody thinks the best model is to have one transfer portal and have it, after the spring. That would allow everybody, to get through their season. It'd allow you to have one academic calendar. And then there's been some talk about maybe moving spring football into the summer, more like an OTA model. So now your roster is completely set, and now you can get some practices in leading up to training camp and start getting prepared, because there's a lot of programs that are going to be practicing a ton of guys during spring ball who are not even going to be a part of their roster, come the fall. So at the end of the day, I just think it's important, right? We got to be thinking about, number one, what's in the best interest of college football. Number two, what's in the best interest of the student athlete. But then also what's in the best interest of the universities and the programs and the athletic departments as well. And it really should be looked at holistically. Coaches shouldn't be thinking about it just from their program's perspective. I think that's what got us into this mess in the first place, when coaches were denying players being able to transfer from one school to another. But we went from one extreme to the other, and more times than not, you'd love for the pendulum to even back out. And right now that has not happened, and I don't see it happening. So I don't think either extreme is in anybody's best interest.
So one of the reasons for the Bo Pribula situation was that Drew Aller decided he was going to come back for this year. And now that you've got Drew in another spring practice and he's working with, all of his old teammates, new teammates, what can he do better than he did in a year where he took you to the semifinals?
Yeah. So let me say one more thing about our previous discussion about the transfer portal. Sure. Well, what about this? So Drew announces he's coming back.
I know where you're going.
Bo now goes into the transfer portal to look around to leave because he's leaving because Drew's coming back. Drew goes on fire during the playoff run and now turns into not only a first-round draft choice, which he was already projected to be, but now a top 5 pick. And he felt the pressure to make an announcement. And now all of a sudden we're in a position where we lost both of them. So that was a realistic concern for me and Drew and his family. So that could have been even crazier. But I think
we had multiple discussions on the show about that, James.
Yeah.
Like because he was playing so well.
When I was in LA, I wrote a column about it. Because NFL draft analysts were like, Drew Aller's a top 10 pick. And it wasn't a heavy quarterback class this year either.
Especially after he played in the Big Ten how he played in the Big Ten championship game against Oregon, played really well, had that throw where the guy was hanging on him and he makes a throw in the end zone for a touchdown. So that was a major concern of mine. But what was your second question? I apologize.
Oh, no. And I'm glad you brought that up because the other piece of that, and you brought it up a little bit, but with Bo, when he's picked Missouri, they've then committed to probably financially to him at that point. And if he keeps playing for you, then what and he gets hurt, what happens?
Or in James's scenario, what if Bo pops back?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That happens too. I mean, we've seen players leave and go back.
Yeah, the whole thing is crazy. But what I did is I ended up talking to our leadership council and I ended up talking to our coaches about it. And obviously, like everybody, you kind of have rules in place of how you typically handle things, but at the end of the day, each scenario is handled on a case-by-case scenario. And again, making decisions that are in the best interest of the student athlete and the best interest of our football program. And I don't think there's anything, there's not anyone in that scenario that didn't want to try to find a way to make it work. Bo wanted to make it work. His family wanted to make it work. And so did we. But the longer it went, the pressure on him being able to find a spot, I think put him in the pressure cooker where he felt like he had no other choice, but had to make that decision. That was a tough conversation, very emotional.
So my question before you asked the better question, and I told you when you ask the questions, it gets interesting. What can Drew do to improve upon an already good year last year?
Yeah, so I get these types of questions a lot, and I don't really give the answer that I think people want me to give. But it's like a little bit of everything, right? It's not one. I think when you get to the point where we are, top 5 program, last 3 years, have won 10 or more games every single year. That hasn't happened at Penn State since I think 1980 to 1982, a 3-year span like that. Obviously, before joining the Big Ten. It's the same with us. You're going to have to get a little bit better in every area. It's not one specific thing. And I think it's the same thing with Drew. Drew, you look at him, he had a very unusual recruiting process. He started out, I think when we were recruiting, he was like a 3-star guy. then moved up late to a 4-star guy. And then at the end, he was a 5-star recruit. And some people had him as the #1 quarterback in the country. Kind of an unusual process in today's day and age, specifically with a quarterback. But I think it's been the same way since he's been on campus. As a freshman, he was our backup quarterback, got a chance to play some significant time, made a significant jump as a sophomore, made another significant jump as a junior. You look at his numbers, you look at his wins, you look at his completion percentage, you look at his touchdown to interception ratio is off the charts. And this year took a big step in terms of his ability to make plays with his legs. You know, last year or 2 years ago, he was 6'5", 242 pounds. This year he was like 6'5", 235, and you know, was able to keep people honest with your legs, which is such a big part of college football and even the NFL now. And I just think that's the next thing for him to do, is continue growing in all those areas. He's an extremely driven and motivated guy. He wants to be great. He approaches it the right way, both mentally and physically. And I think he's just going to continue to take steps in the right direction this year. I also think having one of the better offensive lines in college football, having 2 running backs rush for 1,000 yards last year coming back. Although we lost Tyler Warren, I still think we got one of the better tight end rooms in America. And we're going to need a little bit more production at the wide receiver room, which is why we went into the transfer portal, took 2 guys. Not that we don't believe in the guys that we have in our locker room, but we just needed to raise the competition in that room, because that's going to be an important piece for us moving forward. A few more games in the passing game, specifically in big games.
James, I was at the 2018 game where you gave the famous great to elite speech after the game. And you guys are now coming off of a season in which you were in the semifinal for the first time and were a possession away from the national championship. On the other side of the coin, there are people who criticize you and your record against top 5 opponents. I'm wondering, from your perspective, with all the players you got coming back, Drew, you know, is going to take a step forward. The 2 running backs, Katron Allen, you know who's on your team. Yep. Where do you stand in your mind in terms of great to elite, in terms of where your program is, and what do you think is next for Penn State, and what's the mood of the building there right now?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a fair question. I think the first thing I'll say is, you know, I'm in a situation where, and when I made that comment after that game, I'm in a situation now where, for really the first time here at Penn State, we have the alignment that I've been pounding on the table for 12 years. That's from the board to our president, Neely Bendapudi, who's been phenomenal, to our athletic director, Pat Kraft, who played football in the Big Ten and understands what it takes. And you've seen that type of commitment with some of the things that we've been able to do. And then the head football coach. You know, it's kind of unusual. I've been here 12 years, which is unusual, just that alone. But I've had 3 different ADs and 3 different presidents. And we're in a great position right now. So when you talk about alignment, we have that in a way that we've never had that before. I think the next thing is consistency. We've been one of the most consistent programs in the country. And to be honest with you, probably the most consistent that Penn State's been since joining the Big Ten. If you go back and look at all the data and look at all the analytics, you know, we've done a phenomenal job, and it starts with that. The next step is obviously to be able to win these games. You know, we've been in a conference, you know, with Ohio State, who we have a tremendous respect for, and Michigan, who we have a tremendous respect for. We were all on the same side of the conference. And then obviously now adding Oregon into the equation, you know, us in the SEC, I've been a head coach in the SEC, been a head coach in the Big Ten. So I know what it looks like. And that's the next step for us. And trust me, there's nobody that knows that, you know, better than me. And to be honest with you, Drew, you know, the quarterback gets probably too much praise when things go well and too much criticism when things go bad, and same with the head coach. So we understand that. And I'm not going to allow people, though, not recognize the consistent level of success that we've had, that 99% of the programs in the country would die to have. but also totally recognize and own that we have to take that next step in our biggest games and our biggest moments.
Well, and you mentioned the receiver room, because that's where it felt like that was the piece. If you had that piece last year, you might be playing in that next game. And you go out and you get Kyron Hudson, who you played against from USC, and Devontae Ross, who was Troy's number one receiver last year. How did you guys scout that position in terms of trying to figure out what you're going to bring in to pair with a great tight end room, great running backs, a great returning quarterback?
Yeah, so a couple things. Let me first talk about those guys and then talk about the process. So with Hudson, obviously him doing it in our conference, that helps you feel like it will translate. Obviously made a spectacular catch against LSU, one-handed catch, is a big, strong, mature guy, played at Mater Dei. He's just been playing big-time football for a long time and is extremely mature. And that jumped out to us right away, and it seemed to be a good fit. When you talk about Ross, the thing that we felt good about that it would translate is I got a ton of respect for Iowa on the defensive side of the ball and on special teams. Troy played Iowa on the road, obviously, and they were beating Iowa at halftime. And Ross had over 150 yards. I think he had 3 touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, a punt return for a touchdown. So against one of the better defenses, one of the better special teams in the country, he had that production. So we were excited about that and thought he could help. But in terms of the process, it's difficult. Let's be honest. If you're going to try to do it, under the rules and how we're all supposed to be operating, the best players in the transfer portal, most of them have made the decision before they've ever gone into the transfer portal. People can call it tampering or whatever it may be, but that's happening. So it is very difficult to go into the transfer portal and get the players you want to get if you're doing it by the rules. Either that or the price tag is through the roof. So it is challenging. Where we've had success is guys that we recruited out of high school that we already have a really good relationship with, that we knew them and their families. Because here's the other issue. How do you get to know a kid well enough in a week or two? A lot of these decisions are happening in a week. So either they've been talking to people for multiple weeks before that illegally, or you're making a decision to bring a guy into your locker room that you don't know very well. And we worked very hard to create our culture in our locker room, and I'm sensitive to that. So those are the challenges that come with trying to go to the transfer portal and improve your roster in some areas that are needed.
James, I know we're talking a lot about Penn State, but in your coaching history, you have back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt. I think it was the first time in program history they were in the top 25 for multiple years. And I'm wondering, with all the evolution in the sport right now, and being a coach who has gotten a lot out of a place that traditionally hasn't had much, I'm wondering, with these new rules and all those, do you think that there is an avenue from your perspective that some of the teams that are perceived to be at the bottom of the food chain might be just more difficult to beat moving forward than they've been in the past? And how would that look like to you?
Yeah. So, at Vanderbilt, we went to 3 bowl games in 3 years. I think they'd only ever been to 4 bowl games ever in their history. They had been to 1 bowl game in the 30 years before we got there. So we're very proud of what we were able to do there. I also think the model's changed so much that it's hard to compare and contrast, because, now with the transfer portal, you legitimately can flip your roster in a year. And we've seen that now in college football. I'm going to talk about a program, and I mean this with total respect. But I think SMU's a really good example. We played SMU, really good team, really good coach, really good season. We played them in the playoffs, and SMU, really had not been overly relevant since the death penalty. And they've done a really good job of investing. They've done a really good job of building facilities. We went and visited them when I was at Vanderbilt, talking about a stadium project. We went out and visited them because a similar type school. But I also think NIL is a really good example, right? SMU, you think of their alumni base, where they're located, the money that they have, and they've been able to really embrace the new model of college football and use the strengths of SMU, of that program, of that university, of that region. And, they're right in the thick of things right now. So I think that's an example, that can be used. And there's other programs that can do it as well. But, there needs to be a commitment. And the reality is, with NIL and money being a factor now, if you're at a school that's got, deep pockets and has alumni that can make an impact and are invested, you can make some, changes quickly. And that was not the case 5 or 10 years ago when you're trying to turn your roster over. You just didn't have the ability to do those types of things. And again, I want this to come off. I mean this as a total compliment to SMU, their university, their football program, because they've done a phenomenal job.
So what is next? We had these discussions on the show the last few months about the general manager position and what that means at different places. Now you have Andy Frank, who's done an amazing job with your personnel over the last 12 years he's been with you at Penn State. But what comes next? Do you have to hire like a capologist or how does that work?
Yeah, so Andy's actually been with me for 15 years. He was at Vanderbilt when I got the job. So he's been with me the whole time. Andy's got a engineering degree from Princeton, so really, really smart guy. And that's really, it's funny because before GMs were things, that's what he really was for us, because Andy's not the recruiting guy that gets up in the front of the room and big personality and forming relationships with recruits. That's not how we have it structured and how he operates. It's funny, we would bring people in from other programs and our recruiting model was different, with how Andy had run things. So it actually fit this model a little bit better. So for us, we were interested in going out and maybe hiring someone like that from the NFL, but you're also talking about, basically something that's really kind of started out of nowhere. And where are you getting these people from? Are you getting them from the NFL? Are they guys that are out of work? Are they people that have tremendous experience? And obviously there's 4 or 5 that have been hired that are making significant money. And that's been attractive. So it's poured a lot of people kind of into this role now, and created some opportunities for people that are already doing it. So I think the important thing is not going to hire somebody just so you can say you hired somebody. You got to find the right fit. And sometimes you can have somebody that, is a former player or an alumni of the university that has gone on to the NFL and done some really good things and wants to come back and have an impact. And you're able to get a really high-end person in that position. But for us, we got really good people here, and we weren't able to find the right fit that made sense. So we'll keep looking. We were able to bring back one of our former players, and he's done a really good job of working in this area. And he was actually working as a player rep in terms of representing players as an agent. So he gives us a different perspective in that room as well. And I think that's been valuable. But everybody's kind of looking at this and trying to put together the best they can from a personnel department. And we've done the same thing.
One more question, and we wrap up with this one every time. James Franklin, what is your rule for life?
So since I watch your guys' show and I know your guys' rules base around predominantly food, I'm going to do the same thing. So I have a real problem. So my wife is from the West Coast. She's from Spokane, Washington. And I am from basically just outside of Northeast Philadelphia. I have a whole issue with hot dogs. So like the only thing that's appropriate to put on a hot dog is obviously mustard. If you want to go mustard and relish, that's fine. If you want to go mustard and onions, that's fine. I'm even okay with chili. But I have a major issue with my wife. She puts ketchup on a hot dog. And this has actually become a big part of my interview process. We interview coaches and staff. I'll ask them that question. If they say they put ketchup on a hot dog, it's over because it's an inappropriate condiment to put on a hot dog. And everybody clearly understands that. But before we get off, I'd like to, I'm worried about my guy right here, his facial expression. So I want to hear what
I got a follow-up. I have a follow-up.
I will tell you what happened, James. I'm hearkening back to when I was the ball boy. My dad was a high school assistant coach at Coral Shores High School in the Keys. I'm like third, fourth grade. And so it's after a game, concession stand calls me over, says, here's the hot dogs we didn't sell. Go see if the coaches want them. And I remember taking one and handing it to one of the older assistant coaches, and it had mustard on it. And he's like, I'd rather eat dirt than have mustard on a hot dog. And I was like, what is wrong with you? And I'm a third grader. I can't say this.
Thank you. You should have.
Yeah.
So do you have any follow-up questions during the interview process if the person does put ketchup, or are they out?
It's over. It's over.
So I could never work at Penn State.
Jim Knowles would have said he put ketchup on a hot dog, it would have been over. But you're avoiding this, Ari. What do you got?
I eat ketchup on my hot dog.
Oh, I knew it. I could just tell by your face.
I know. I'm
firing him right now, right?
Hey, Andy, is there any way we can just
Well, here's the thing. Tell him what you did to me. I was covering a Michigan game with Andy, and they had chicken nuggets. Tell him what happened. What you did to me.
You were putting ketchup on chicken nuggets, which is just blasphemy.
Oh, so he just puts ketchup on everything.
I like ketchup. Yeah,
I like ketchup too, but you don't just put it on
French fries. Like God intended.
French fries. Just so you know, the worst part is my wife has got my daughters eating ketchup on.
See, this is what's interesting. You won't hire somebody to work for you who does this, but you'll share your life with them.
Well, you think I got an option here? You think I can it's my wife and daughters? My wife brainwashed.
But you didn't know at the time to ask before the dating commenced.
That's a fair point. That's how we got here, though. That's my point. That's how we got to this. I would go to work. My wife would spend all day long brainwashing my daughters on ketchup on a hot dog. It's ridiculous.
Well, if I ever get a chance to work in your organization, I will answer that question correctly.
You're qualified. I'm not.
You're good. You're qualified. He's not. That's exactly right.
James Franklin, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
Guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, Ari, you were heated. Can we let the audience in on what happened after this? I am so mad that I hit stop record because James Franklin did not stop there. That conversation went on for another solid 5 minutes. He had a meeting he had to go to, and he's carrying the laptop around the Penn State football offices, yelling at Ari about ketchup on a hot dog.
The thing that irritates me about this is, if you do weird things with your food and or if people do weird things with their food and it irritates you, that makes sense. But the vast majority of people use ketchup on a hot dog. You're attacking a very regular activity. So whether or not you like it or not, whatever. But it's not an odd thing to do. And to be appalled by it is bizarre because even in hot dog commercials, they have ketchup on them. It's a very regular thing to do. And it's to me, when you think about the reason ketchup even exists, I think that there are 3 food items that come to mind: French fries, burgers, and hot dogs. So it's okay, yeah, I put ketchup on my hot dog. Why is that weird?
As pointed out, you also put ketchup on chicken nuggets. You are not the authority on
ketchup.
This.
I think I would have.
You're authority on ketchup.
I'm a ketchup abuser. So I don't know if I'm the perfect example to try to get across the point of if you're going to judge people for doing something, maybe die on a hill that's less common. I don't know. It's a very regular thing to do, and a lot of people do it. So, yeah,
it's a very regular thing to eat mayonnaise on anything, and I hate it more than anything in the whole world, and think people who eat it are crazy. So,
no, but you don't have a hard line rule in the sand of anybody who puts mayonnaise on a hamburger is an idiot or is.
I should.
It's not.
Because I don't understand why they do it.
Yeah, it's and then there's this is the thing that you do and somebody in the chat is doing. and you did this to me when we covered the Ohio State-Michigan game in 2019. They had chicken fingers, and I put ketchup on my plate to dip it in the chicken finger. And then you said, I used to eat ketchup with chicken fingers when I was a kid, and then I grew up. It's like, it tastes good. Like, what does growing up have to do with
it? Doesn't taste that good. It tastes better if you dip them in mustard or honey mustard.
Honey mustard wasn't an option. I love honey mustard.
Mustard was.
You think that dipping chicken fingers in mustard is less psychotic than ketchup?
Dipping chicken fingers in mustard is delicious.
That's a weird, like, we're going off the rails here. Like, that's like, ketchup is literally on sale to dip fried things into. Like that. And if you really want me to take it a step further, I would put ketchup on my steak if I could without being ridiculed. Like, I love ketchup.
I'm staying quiet because I want to make sure all of that audio gets captured properly. So when I put the clip out later, people know what a psychopath you are.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. I understand that it's taboo, especially because you and I have eaten at some pretty nice steakhouses, right? Like, and like, if a steak is a high cut of meat, high quality piece of meat, and is cooked well and seasoned well, like, you don't want to the overwhelming flavor profile of that nice piece of meat to be ketchup, which is why I don't do it. And I understand that concept. But I think that, like, ridiculing people for putting ketchup on children's foods, like hot dogs, hamburgers, and chicken nuggets, is insane. Like, it's like you're not a food expert because you think that hot dogs should be eaten a certain way. It's like food experts don't even think about hot dogs. Like,
you know who is a food expert? Steve in San Antonio. The spicy ketchup from Whataburger is amazing, and it is the best thing to dip your fries in. The best thing. And remember, Whataburger bringing us to San Antonio. Steve asking, can we come see you guys in San Antonio? Yes, you can come see us on Saturday. We're going to be near the Alamo. We'll get you the exact location later in the week. And yeah, if you want to come by, absolutely come by.
We'd love to
we
meet
will
you
be
guys.
having some fun taste tests. Ari,
do you know what's the best thing about the Whataburger ketchup thing, though, is that they sell it in Texas. I don't know if this is everywhere, but in Texas, in grocery stores, the spicy Whataburger ketchup is on the shelves next to Heinz. Like, you can buy it in like a plastic thing that you squeeze.
See, and here's the thing. I am a massive ketchup French fry dipper. Like, there's very little in the world better to me than French fries dipped in good ketchup, like the Whataburger spicy ketchup. Like, I would like to have some people fly in from Belgium, you know, those psychos that dip their fries in mayonnaise, and have them come to San Antonio and visit us. And I will have them put some Whataburger fries in spicy ketchup and show them the error of their ways. Like, they'll go back to Belgium and be like, guys, we got it all wrong.
Yeah.
We're doing it wrong.
The spicy ketchup thing is really, really good. And I think it's kind of bizarre that it's not a common offering everywhere. So the fact that Whataburger's got it on lock is I mean, that's like a literal, like, I'm a big enough ketchup fan to say that their ketchup is a reason to go there, like, even as much as the food. So the thing that I think is interesting with you and the mayonnaise thing is that overseas, mixing mayonnaise and ketchup together and making a fry sauce is a very common thing. And you know where they do that a lot?
Yeah, here it's very common too. It's called Thousand Island dressing, and it freaking sucks.
Yeah, I know, but they don't serve Thousand Island dressing in the pumps at fast food restaurants. Okay, it's not that common, but they do in Utah.
God.
Do you know Utah? They have fry sauce. That's what it's called.
Yeah,
and it's delicious.
Yeah, because they didn't realize they just invented Thousand Island dressing.
Yeah, whatever. Thousand Island dressing is delicious. So, like, just because
Also
you have
gross.
a weird aversion to one of the most delicious things on earth doesn't mean that, like, you're the problem here. Like, at least, like, when I'm, like, wrong, I can acknowledge I'm the problem, or at least I know that, like,
You just said you'd put ketchup on a steak.
But I have enough respect for the steak and the people I'm eating with to not do it.
Is it? I think it should be allowable. Like, you know, we have mutual combat states where if two guys are fighting, like, they can't press charges against one another. I believe that if you order a steak in a fancy steakhouse and then you put ketchup on it, the chef should be allowed to come out and slap you in the face.
See, the thing that's
no legal repercussions whatsoever
is that if you were at a fancy steakhouse, putting any type of sauce on it's taboo, right? It doesn't just stop at ketchup. Like if you put A1 on a nice piece of meat, you're also ridiculed, right?
Correct. Well, they would like it if you paid $8 for their au poivre that they made special for you. But yeah.
So I actually think that steak is very good without it. So like I don't ever miss it. But you know, like when you order steak at like Texas Roadhouse, I would dip that shit in ketchup all day. Like that's like,
how dare you?
like,
They cut it right in front of you.
Texas Roadhouse steaks are just basically like eating a leather.
I have had multiple Texas Roadhouse steaks. Like I'm telling you right now, they don't need any sauce. They do a great job. Great job.
Yeah.
Ari, a place where they do put ketchup on hot dogs, at least according to the photographic evidence we saw yesterday, is Conway, South Carolina. Conway, South Carolina, of course, home to Coastal Carolina. So there's a deal that they're planning on for this football season. I don't know how long this is going to last. Roll the video, River.
What's up, boss?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's the damage?
Free.
Free. Well, what about for this?
Free as well.
Free.
All of it free. You want some nachos?
Yeah.
Free too.
All free.
All free.
Free. Can I get 50 of these?
Yeah.
Free.
Free.
What about a drink?
All of it free.
Free.
Have 2 drinks.
Drinks? Whew.
And
all
a hot
free?
dog. Yeah.
Hot dogs free too?
All free. There you go.
Free.
Free.
Sweet.
That's right, Till Nation. This fall in Brooks Stadium, every fan, every game, always free. Free concessions, popcorn, nachos, hot dog, fountain drinks, and water for every fan this fall. Come out to Brooks Stadium, get your tickets now, and cheer on the Shots. Go Shots.
All right. So that's Chance Miller. He's the athletic director at Coastal Carolina. Free concessions. Free. All the hot dogs you want, all the nachos you want, all the sodas, waters, free. Ari.
Do we have the ability to zoom onto graphics, River? Because there's something interesting in this picture that I want everyone to see.
No,
yes.
but I can blow it up for you.
There's
Okay.
ketchup. There's ketchup on that hot dog in the photo.
Interesting.
Okay. You going to let this go, or can we talk about this incredible deal that is being offered by Coastal Carolina right now?
You think you were going to put that up there and I wasn't going to say anything? Like, do you not know me? Like, you think I was just going to like let that
I
fly?
mentioned it. I teased it going into the video.
Okay, you can talk about this now because we do have a lot to talk. But I'm not going to let an opportunity to bang my point. That's who I am as a human. It's actually a toxic trait, like in my relationships. Like I bring things up from earlier on when it's relevant. So, okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I'm sure that goes really well for you when you're arguing with your wife.
It doesn't.
Okay. Let's talk about this because, there's the ketchup on the hot dog. Apparently popcorn too. Okay. So this is an incredible deal. I am very excited about this. Ari, we probably can't get to one of the Saturday Coastal Carolina games. But on October 30th, they're playing Marshall at home. It's a Thursday night. We need to go. We need to go and see how many hot dogs we can put down in one night. Can I map the weekend out for you? You want me to map out a glorious weekend? All right. So we convene Wednesday in the greater Myrtle Beach area. Like we find like somebody with a squatted Chevy Tahoe to drive us around because that's how you drive around Myrtle Beach. And we just have the greatest night in one of the trashiest beach towns in America. And then on Thursday, we hydrate well. And then we are at this game and we are downing as many hot dogs as we can. We're embracing our inner Joey Chestnuts.
We go as fans. Like we walk into
we're not covering this game. We're not interviewing. I don't know if we're going to be in a position where we could speak after the game. So I don't know if we could interview anybody.
Bluntly ask you this. And I know that your stomach has changed since you became a skinny person. But like how many hot dogs do you think you actually could put down?
Oh, it's not many now. Now, in the old days, when I would have filled a lot more of this frame, during the course of a football game. So like let's say they open the stands 90 minutes before kick. So we got a solid 4.5 hours in the stadium. I think I could have probably eaten 35 to 40 hot dogs during that period. I think I could have done that. Now I don't think I can get anywhere near that.
In a 5-hour period, you think?
And I'm not doing it like Joey Chestnut. Like I'm not dunking it in water. I'm actually trying to enjoy it and eat it normally. I think that's what I could have done.
No way you could put down 40 hot dogs in 4 hours. There's no way. Not even in your prime. That's even more than I went to Chompy's in Phoenix over the weekend. It's a Jewish deli out there, and it's really good. And I once saw Andy eat an entire mile-high sandwich, which is 2 halves of a corned beef pastrami sandwich. It's literally like the size of your head. Then he ate 8 sliders that were on challah bread that were corned beef. And then
I ate your fries.
And it was the most I've ever seen any human being eat in a single sitting. And I still think 40 hot dogs is more food than that.
I think you're probably right, but I think it's stretched over that amount. Now, the problem is, like, you're going to hit a point, and we did this with the nuggets when I tried to eat as many nuggets as I could during a show, and I thought I could do 100, and I only did 61. There's a point where you're just done, and you're going to need hours and hours and hours to recover.
Right.
So
I wonder,
I don't know if I could have. I know I couldn't do it now.
I mean, if you're talking about the bun too, you're probably saying that every hot dog is probably the equivalent of 10 nuggets. So you probably would stop at 10 hot dogs at most. Like 40 is insane. Like 40 is like competition level. How many does Joey Chestnut eat in that 10-minute period? Like 70?
Oh no, he's over 70, and I think it's is 10. I think it's less than 10 minutes, but he's in the 70s, the high 70s.
I legitimately don't think I could eat more than 5. Like I'm not a volume eater.
No, this is your dream though, because this is like the ultimate trash food.
Yeah, no. See, that's what I would do is you
want.
We'll go there and we'll do a challenge and we'll see how many hot dogs you can eat. And then my challenge will be how many different types of cuisine can I eat? Like how many types? Because I want the nachos. I want the
corn. You got to get the nachos and the popcorn, and so we do that. Obviously, film lots of videos there. And then we haul ass back to Florida. You spend Halloween at my house. And you know how big they do Halloween in my neighborhood.
Yeah, people get lit in your neighborhood, don't they?
That's exactly right. And then the next day, Florida plays Georgia and Jacksonville. Let's make this happen. Let's do this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the only thing that I have to make sure of is that trick-or-treating for my daughter is on a different night than that Thursday, which it usually is.
Friday. It was a Friday. It's probably not going to be.
Usually trick-or-treating is like 3 days before or the following week after. It's never like on Halloween.
Oh, for the little kids, so they're not run over by the big kids. I got you.
Yeah, the little kid Halloween trick-or-treating is a little bit different, and it's usually 45 minutes. So, but like that's an important thing for me. So, but like I do think that would be a blast, and I would love to do it. But you know, it also like the stadium hot dogs are the best hot dogs. Because
do we think this deal will still exist by October 30th?
So the
do we think it'll make it through the first few home games?
This deal is to get people into the door to buy beer, right? Like that's the point.
That was my first thought. Producer River and I were going over the plan, and I need to give Chance Miller a call and just get the deets on this, like the pure details, because I have had conversations with folks like Josh Brooks, who's the AD at Georgia. They reduced their concession prices a few years ago because they did a study and kind of found out that the jacked up soda prices, if you just make them normal soda prices, you will make the same amount of money based on volume. So people are insulted when they get charged $6 to $7 to $8 for a Coke.
Because this is also the problem in a movie theater, right? Like
yes.
They tell you that, or you can go get a ticket now for $15 or whatever it is. But the largest margins in movie theater aren't the prices of the tickets; it's how much you pay at the concession stand. And like if you go to the movie theater and you buy a popcorn, a nacho, and a drink or two, you're out $35. Like, and it's to the point where people don't do it anymore. And I think that there is like like I'm the type of person, and I think that this is bad, But like when I'm buying food and I'm in public, like I don't think about that's just part of the deal. Like you know where you are, like it's part of it, you know. But like
We have started thinking a lot more about it as the prices have gone up.
But when you start getting into like $12, $13 for a soda, Britt and I went to Shane Gillis at American Airlines, which is where the Mavs play, a month ago, and we got 2 beers, or a beer and she got a wine or something, 2 taco dinners and like a popcorn or something when we got there, and I think it was like $100. And maybe it was a lot of it was the booze, but like even if a beer is $20, and I mean it's just like we could have gone to a nice steak dinner. So like
I'm reading here, I believe beer is $5 at Coastal Carolina. Producer Rivers telling us it's $16 for a beer at Neyland Stadium at Tennessee. $5 for a beer with unlimited hot dogs, and oh my God, we're gonna have to do this.
Also, too, I mean, like I've never seen a game there, but I heard that it gets pretty rowdy. Like this is a pretty good way to make it rowdy.
Oh yeah, I've only been there for a practice, so I'd love to see a game there. I'm very excited. We got to make this happen, Ari.
The thing about it, Andy, is like the worst part of our job, and there are very few bad aspects of it. We are very lucky. But the thing that I am remorseful as it pertains to being in this position is I no longer can go to games and just enjoy them, like as a fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get to sit in the stands, drink beer. You don't got to take notes or what's your angle or all the things that you have to consider when we're up there, and just like take in a game and tailgate. Like when's the last time you got hammered at a tailgate for a college football game? Has it been 3 decades?
Yeah, because I can't. Like I've had people offer me stuff when I'm at a game working. And I'm like, sorry.
Every single person in my life, I don't know how this goes for you. If I'm at a football game that they're at, they'll be like, hey, I know you're here. Come by the tailgate. Let's drink. And it's just like, I don't think people understand like that when we're there, we're doing a different thing.
Yeah, you're right. It would be like me coming to your job and saying, hey, I got a 6-pack out in the parking lot. Let's split it.
Yeah, come out and tailgate before we pound Excel sheets. I don't know.
This is actually not a bad idea. This is maybe something we should we normalize this behavior in real life? I think we should.
All right.
Because
here's the thing. So when we met Big Cat in the parking lot before the Alabama
Wisconsin
game in Madison, we were at a tailgate, and then like we were offered alcoholic beverages as like a promo. Do you remember those? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember. Yeah, they were like little bomb things. Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, I don't remember what it was. But like we got offered 2 or 3, and then we met Big Cat, and then we were drinking White Claws with him, and I had 2 with him. And it was the most I ever drank before a college game. And I was like pretty buzzed walking into the
I remember.
I got to tell you, though, I was locked in, bro. Like
you were stone cold sober by the end of the game.
Yeah.
But
saying,
yeah,
I could have covered. I feel like I could cover a game messed up. I think.
I didn't think about this from a 2025 perspective. So Steve says, I work at home. Come on over. So yeah, I can just show up in Steve's driveway, drop the tailgate, and we're good.
You know,
I love it.
When people go on lunch breaks from their jobs, because like Britt goes out to lunch all the time for her job. Like I see friends sometimes for lunch, but I work at home alone. But what percentage of people do you think drink beers on their lunch break? It's a pretty high number, I think.
It's probably not as high as the Mad Men era when they were just crushing martinis.
How did anybody get anything done? Did people? Is Mad Men exaggerated, or did people actually slam whiskey in their office? Like,
I think there are. Well, look, we're in sports writing. We've known quite a few functional alcoholics in our day, so it's possible.
Yeah, I just know like if I had like 3, like like they would show Don, and you would have like a whiskey glass up to here, and you would just like pound it. And it's like, how do you like sell a Kodak commercial now? Like, I feel like there's a point.
Carousel.
Yeah, dude, that was emotional. That was an incredible show where nothing happened really. Like it was like
an incredible show.
It was like the original. It was like the 50s Seinfeld almost, except it wasn't a comedy. It was like
stuff happened. Stuff happened all the time.
No, dude, the first season of that show, when like he was faking his identity, you thought like maybe he would have like a dark past and there'd be like a murder involved or something, and then like it just turned out to be like no one cared, and then he was just cheating on his wife for
Way
5
to
seasons.
ruin the first season and a half of Mad Men for people.
I did, didn't I? Well,
How
I mean, the
dare
thing's
you.
been out for what, 15 years now. If you haven't seen it by now, then that's a you problem. But I thought it was an incredible show. I'm not negging it. I'm just saying, like, the way that the show started, you thought it was going to a place that it really never went to.
No, I loved it. Loved it. Got my wife into Landman, by the way. Very excited about this. I'm now rewatching. If Ali Larter doesn't win every Emmy, it's rigged.
Do you think you could be married to a woman with that personality?
I think I kind of am married to one with that personality. We're not with the gold digging aspect of it, but we'll say everything on her mind. Yes, I'm already married to that.
She saw those Sports Illustrated bylines. We're just like, oh, baby, get me pregnant now.
Oh, no. She met me when I was broke. She met me when I had $20 in my checking account.
Any single person, I guess, like maybe on ESPN or something, but like, has anybody ever been a gold digger for a sports writer before?
No. Your gold digging standards are very, very low. If that's the case, you're panning for copper at that point.
Tuscaloosa News, and he is rolling in it.
Speaking of cash money, because this is the only reason this thing exists, we got to talk about the Crown basketball tournament because they started playing it yesterday. So for those who don't know, the Crown is a tournament that Fox organized involving teams from conferences that have TV deals with Fox. So the Big 10, the Big East, the Big 12. And they have these games. So right after the Elite 8 games end on Sunday, and then the Crown starts on Monday. So the Crown started yesterday, and they had a quadruple header, like 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., like it right along. The teams involved, obviously teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament. So like yesterday's games, Butler beat Utah, Boise State beat George Washington, Nebraska beat Arizona State, Georgetown beat Washington State. But the most interesting thing that happened was not that. This tournament is in Vegas. If you've heard my description of it and you know Ari, you know this thing exists only to be watched by gamblers. The only reason you would even start this thing is because you know there are people just itching for action on the day after the Elite 8, and they want some action. Well, the Crown got pulled from FanDuel and DraftKings because apparently their excuse is that the regulating agencies in various states had not approved it. The conspiracy theory among gamblers is because of when this is happening in relation to the transfer portal. Like Villanova plays today. Villanova has fired a coach and hired a coach. Like Mike Nardi is the interim coach who's leading Villanova in their game today. Like the gambling conspiracy, and I kind of lean this way, is you can't make a line for these things that's anywhere near accurate because you don't know who's like when the games were set, you didn't know who's going to transfer. You have no idea what these teams are going to look like.
Also, if you were going to fix a sporting event, like the Crown would be it, right? Like, I mean, like there's no, like, is there like a Crown trophy that people are going to put in their basketball buildings?
And, well, the players get money. Like the more further you go, the more money the players get.
Yeah.
So
which is cool, 'cause that's a motivational aspect.
Right. And if the regulating agencies has a problem with that, well, they don't have a problem with golf tournaments and tennis tournaments. So they work the same way, where the further you go, the more money you get.
So the thing that's interesting about this, though, Andy, when you're doing the whole neck scratching thing, is that when you get to the first round of the NCAA tournament, there is a basketball game on at all times, right? And then the next weekend, it's kind of just one at a time. But then you get to the Final Four and the Elite 8, and it's like you're itching for action and watching games and that just aren't on. And it becomes like kind of like a...
Which is why they schedule this the way they did. So quarterfinals Monday, Tuesday, or excuse me, round of 16 Monday, Tuesday, round of 8 Wednesday, Thursday, semis Saturday right before the Final Four. Like, so there's a game and another game, and then it leads into the Final Four tipping off.
It's called a little appetizer is what that's called.
And your Sunday championship is immediately after the women's national championship game.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You're right, though. Like, if you're not gambling on it, then why are you watching it?
What's the point?
Yeah.
Our friend Mitch Sherman who covers Nebraska for The Athletic, he said it's like the NBA All-Star game, just without the NBA All-Stars. And then Ryan Glass-Steagall, who covers the media, he had a great tweet. I think he might listen to you, Ari. It's so bizarre that you could bet on a random ping pong match around the world at all hours of the day, but state regulators drew the line at the Crown Tourney and ordered books to take the lines down.
It's actually a sweet logo.
It's a beautiful logo. Listen, it's a good idea given this environment. But if I were a line maker, this would be a nightmare for me.
Yeah,
because you could get your book just destroyed here.
Yeah. I mean, like my book caps my women's bets.
Yeah,
and that's an actual tournament. And because like the lines aren't as sharp on those, so I can't imagine. I mean, I actually would think, with all the data that they have from these actual power basketball teams, that making a line would be relatively easy. But
these aren't those teams.
Yeah, if rosters and coaches are in flux, then I understand that too. So, you know what makes me think though, like how down bad is the UFL if they can't get people to watch it, even if they're gambling on it? Like I don't.
There's even more ways for you to gamble live. That's all there is to it.
I know, but like I even in the off season, like I don't even do that.
So ping pong, yes, but you draw the line at spring football.
It's not drawing the line. It's just I'm not even interested in watching it. I don't know why. But COVID was a very dark time. Okay, like let's just like Andy, like we weren't going out. There was no dinners. There's nothing going on. Like you're not sleeping well. Like you're sleeping all day, so you're up all night, and it's just like, what am I going to do at 3 a.m? And you got one option, and once that's exhausted, you got to figure something else out. So that's ping pong.
Scott wants to know, because we're in complete grab ass territory now, but Scott wants to know
Thursday.
When's the targeting there?
And we have some shows to record on Thursday. So here's the thing. Can I talk about this? Because I'm like really
sure.
And people are mocking me. Congratulations on your used car. Thank you. I'm excited about my used car. So it gets shipped on a semi truck, right? Like there's a truck,
right?
And you've been down the road that I live on. Like that's not a semi truck pull into the driveway type of road. So like I've got to coordinate like a grocery store around the corner where I can go. I'm going to walk to it and pick it up at some point on Thursday, but they picked it up this morning and it's on its way. And then I'll know on Thursday, like as he's approaching, like what time. But like the thing that stinks is that like I'm super excited to go to the Final Four. I'm gonna miss my baby because I'm gonna have it for like 4 hours. Then
you're not driving it all the way down I-35 to come visit us.
I thought about it, but then I was like, am I gonna put 10% of the miles that are on this thing on it just to drive to San Antonio? And like if something broke, I want to get it serviced and all this stuff. So, but I want you to come drive it. I want you to be excited. And yeah, but I can't wait. And I'm going to waterboard people with pictures of it. So I hope that you're all ready for that. But I've been waiting for a long time for this, and I finally just pulled the trigger and did it. And I'm sure Andy's tired of getting listings about it at 2 a.m. because I would send him like, what do you think of this one? It's like he's been along for the journey. So
I am just thrilled for you. I am thrilled for you, but no, I can't wait to see it. We're going to have to make that happen very soon, but we got more to talk about. Very interesting college football conversation today. You mentioned this yesterday, and I want to talk about it tomorrow. And I think you and I could probably get together and do some writing about this too, because I think it's very interesting. What's the ceiling for your favorite program?
Mm-hmm.
What are the ceilings for various programs in college football? Because we had that argument about Penn State yesterday.
But we also have to have the argument of, like, that's the thing with Penn State that we didn't get to wrap around on, is that when I said the thing that made people angry about Penn State, which is they don't have as high of a ceiling as Michigan and Ohio State, and you said, why shouldn't that be? That's not true. Why is that true? That is the reason why you're able to be critical of James Franklin. Like that's the whole thing. So like whether or not they've been judged against teams where their ceilings are national championship. And let's be honest, for a while there during the 2010s, Penn State was better than Michigan. Like Michigan's national title 2 years ago is like rewriting the history of like where they are.
And Vance asking, are we talking about for this season or all time? We're talking about right now.
Yeah, like right now.
With
so
this coach, with this administration, for whatever, like, because the USC conversation, I think, is going to be real different for right now than it would have been when Pete Carroll was the coach.
But you cannot say with a straight face that Penn State's ceiling is not winning a national title when they were a possession away from making the title game and playing a team that they played a one possession game with. Like,
well, you're the only one who was saying that.
No. But what I'm saying I think that their ceiling has changed, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that was their ceiling in 2017. I think it is now.
I think this is a really fun conversation for a lot of different programs. Now, it's not a fun conversation for Ohio State or Georgia. We know what it is for them. We know.
Yeah.
But some of the more interesting ones where they're either trying to get back to something or they hit a high and we're not sure they can get there again. That is fascinating. So, yeah, where is your program's ceiling right now? We'll talk about it tomorrow. And later in the week, we want you helping us. Dear Andy, dear Ari, you know how to find us at Andy_Staples on social media, at Ari Wasserman on social media, Andy Staples on3@gmail.com, Ari.Wasserman at on3.com. We already got one question from Willie.
Nobody emails me ever.
I know. They email me. I don't know why they just email me.
Because your name is the bigger name. I get it.
Well, Willie already sent us a question, and I love it. Can I Willie's in the chat right now. I think I should preview it. You ready? You ready?
Sure.
You ready? Because we need to start coming up with an answer for this. We might need to enlist Pete Nakos to help us. What would the 2001 Miami team roster cost in the NIL era?
Oh, God.
This is a great question. This is such a good question.
Be very expensive.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.